dialects. I don't tend to respond to names when it's pronounced wrong very well, so I learned in a very young age to just go by Susie. Not a lot of people can spell that wrong. We're going to talk today about my civilian life before I became a military spouse, before I entered the military connection, the beginning of my military journey, military life in numbers. So you guys, I'm a visual person. I like numbers. I'm not big about statistics. Statistics are only a snapshot of the current situation and never an accurate representation of the entire picture. So please keep that in mind. This presentation and my numbers might change in 2 or 3 years, might have changed from 10 years ago. I will give you numbers about what it means for children in the military. I'll give you a quick insight in the good, the bad, and the ugly, and then my final thought about military life, and then we'll open up for questions and open remarks. My civilian life for military looks beautiful, isn't it? I was natively born in Thailand. I lived there for quite some while, I think 6 years elementary, before I moved to Germany. Majority of my life I spent in Germany. I grew up in Frankfurt. I speak Thai, I speak German fluently. It's actually my first language. I learned how to speak French. It's a requirement elementary in Europe, and I learned how to speak English. This is my last language. Before I came to the US and before I met my husband and before I became a military spouse, I attended technical college. I hold a certification in international forwarding. Basically, I ship things around the world through the container. I love the international aspects. I worked on the Asian side, shipped a lot of stuff export-wise to China, and I was responsible for the US continent as well. In my spare time, I did work a lot while I was went to college. I saved my money to travel. I traveled Europe. I was very antsy. I couldn't sit still, so when I had spare time and I wasn't studying or I wasn't working, I made a point to see Europe, and I really loved it. So then this happened. Wow. I'm pretty sure all of you know the term culture shock. When you come new to K-State, you have to learn Lumont Hall. Where is that? You have to learn, term and language, lingo pertaining to K-State, pertaining to your state, your hometown, where you're coming from. It is no different when you go and enter the military world. You have to learn ranks, so you address people properly, you know who you're talking to. You should be nice to everybody, by the way, so ranks really doesn't matter, but it would be nice if you address them by the rank. Lost in translation is huge. I learned Oxford English, and I spoke Oxford English until I met my husband. During an FRG meeting, this was a key moment where I realized, wow, we need to change things. I need to get on my toes. We're at an FRG meeting. We do arts and crafts, doing welcome home posters. Brand new spouse. I think I was 2 years into the marriage. 1 year he was deployed, about to return, our first deployment. So it was a room and this, 40 spouses, and we're all working, and I did a mistake on my poster, and I called out to the FAG leader who was sitting 2 tables down and says, "Brandon, may I have the rubber, please?" Everybody looked at me, and I had 40 eyes staring at me. I was like, what did I do wrong? In England, you say rubber is eraser. I didn't know that. Apparently I asked for a condom. Well, there was one of those things where you're just like, nice. So we're I worked on that language barrier. I'm very good at languages, and I picked up pretty quick. Got a lot of words and terminologies was a huge deal in my life, so I had to get on my toes in that. Roller coaster. I do not like roller coaster. I love my feet on the ground where they're safe and sound. I have 3 children that love roller coaster with their life. I will never go with them on one. I will never do bungee jumping. I will never jump out of a perfectly fine airplane. As a military wife, you have to. It is required of you. There's a lot of unknown. That was the beginning stage. It was very challenging in a lot of ways to get used to not only the American way of life, not only to the American civilian way of life, to the American way of military life. There was not just 1 changes or 2 changes, there was numerous changes on a daily basis. And everything I heard along the way is the first thing that stuck with me the entire time is, suck it up. Suck It Up was my combat, that stuck with me for the entire journey. So, military life in numbers. My husband has 20 years of active duty. He is a E8 right now. It is the rank of Master Sergeant. He holds the position of the First Sergeant. He is promotable and will make the E9 rank this summer. He will attend the academy. So E9 is basically enlisted the highest rank you can achieve, and then you will get into nominal positions like Such Major of the Army or Chief of Staff, Such Major, and things like that. We have 3 children. Amazing. If you see the numbers later on, and you will understand why I say amazing. We have 3 children. We managed to have 3 children along the journey. My oldest will be 13. I have an 11-year-old and I have a 7-year-old. So very challenging because now we're going to the preteen teenage stage and it's fun. No bueno. We had 6 permanent change of duty stations along the 20-year career. We lived in 8 different houses. He deployed 7 times in a total of 54 months. In addition to that, he had 15 months of military required schools, senior leadership course, and such an AIT, individual training to learn his MWES, like his skill set. In addition to that, 22 months of field exercise that we can come up with. So it means when you deploy, you come back and you're supposed to have 12 months downtime. In that 12 months, your spouse will be gone in the field and playing, soldiering, camping outside, or doing any other field exercise. I'm pretty sure you have heard Fort Riley is pretty close. You know, they have artillery fire, you've heard Devil's Focus, NTC. You're good, keep okay. NTC and such things. So a total of 7.5 years of his 20-year career, he was gone. 7.5 years in a time where I was a single parent, parenting by myself, was a military wife, where I didn't have any significant other. Well, there's other jobs where spouses are gone too, so I'm not saying our job is particularly challenging just because of the time apart. There's other circumstances that play a role to that. Military kids in numbers. Military kids, in average, move 2 to 3 times every 2 to 3 years. More than 10 times its civilian counterpart. Military children will change an average 6 to 9 times schools during their academic career, and that is the average. I have children, or I know children that change almost every year once their parents move up to a certain rank. The officer corps has it more hard than the enlisted corps. They can move up to every 12 to 18 months. So if you're a senior in high school, you find yourself very challenging. That's a military family, have to separate a lot. Leave kids behind, leave spouse behind, to separate voluntarily, just to enable the kids to graduate with their friends and have their prom and have their senior year steady at one spot. 80% of military children are culturally diverse. No surprise. We are represented on almost every continent on the world. We are in Asia, Pan-Pacific, we are in Europe for sure, we are on the African continent, which might be a surprise to you guys. We are also in Australia, we are in Hawaii, which is part of America, of course, and we're stateside. So we're in Japan, we have a lot of cultural influence, which you can also see in the spouses, you know, that the service members are marrying. So cultural diversity is very large. It's a large population within the military. We're very open-minded people due to the structure the military sets up for us. 80% of military children are duolingual. 14% speak 3 or more languages. My kids do not pertain into any of these categories. I tried to teach him German. Me and my husband had an agreement at the beginning, so I did not teach him that. But they pick it up and they speak with my parents and my family in German when they're there. They're really quick to learn that. I will get into that if that is of interest for you guys and why I haven't taught him German or Thai. Numbers and ages of active duty dependent children worldwide. 437,079 children are on the age between 0 and 5. We have 329,547 children between the age of 6 and 11. And the rest of them sums up from the teenage stage about 275,000 children. So over 50% of military children are under the age of 11. That pertains to elementary level. That's where you guys fall into place. A lot of children, when you meet them at first grade, kindergarten, like it was shared earlier, are very insecure, are very shy, are very withdrawn, because change is difficult for adults. Change for younger kids is even more challenging. So your role as educator, it's immense. This is one of my favorite quotes. It's been floating around the internet quite a lot. I don't know if any of you have seen that. So the original part reads, military kids will have to say goodbye to more significant people by the age of 18 than the average person has to in their entire lifetime. And I love my military spouse community. One of the military spouses changed that. So she corrected it and said, military kids will have more significant people by the age of 18 than the average person has in their entire lifetime. And I absolutely love this because it's true. So we're taking the approach of the glass is half empty to the glass is half full. The good, the bad, and the ugly. The goods are we travel the world and we have friends everywhere. We do also have family everywhere. I love it. I don't have to pay for hotel rooms anywhere I go. Perfect. The bad. We are apart from family a lot. Unemployment is a big issue among military spouses. And we do miss a lot of key moments such as wedding, birthday of school, birthdays, and we had a funeral to attend and I did not make that in time. So those are the bad thing. The ugly thing about the military side is deployments and mental health. Deployments are very challenging in many aspects. Not, again, I'm empathized, not due to the time apart. We know what we signed up for. Deployments are challenging because you have the expectation that your significant other might not return. Mental health is the other one, just because they return, they're not okay. So those are two of the very big issues, the ugly part of the military, that we can get into it if you guys are interested. I also asked your professor to print you out 2 letters, and I will not get into this over here, I get very emotional. Those 2 letters are from a lieutenant who passed away in Afghanistan in combat. And he wrote goodbye letters to his spouse and to his daughter. So if you're interested, this is just empathizing the ugly part of military. If you want to read through it, it's beautiful. But,
those are posted in your course module.
Okay, then my final thoughts on military life. I married the man. I didn't marry the army, but the army was a part of it. I had to learn to love it, and I do love it. Military life is not easy, and it's not for everybody. So if you see that handsome soldier, girlfriend, think twice. I know, we've all been there. Military life is like a roller coaster ride. If you're brave enough to go for it, it is definitely worth it. But know what you're getting into. It's a commitment for life. It's not a commitment that you should take easily. You not marry the soldier. You marry a country. Be aware of that. Sorry. Okay, that is so up my presentation. If you have any questions, remarks, I'm happy to answer them for you. Go ahead.
How did you support your children during the time your spouse is gone?
We keep busy. We keep very busy. My kids are physically very active. We do swim teams. He's middle school now, so he does a lot of middle school sports. We did everything from soccer to, what do? We do triathlons a lot. We do a lot of outdoor activities. We have a very good schedule. So we are that family who was like, oh my God, they're crazy. Like I will be yelling and say, get in the car, goggling up, let's go, 5 minutes, where's your bag? You have your goggles, I told you to put it, I will be that parent. I'm not gonna lie, we are always on the go. It's chop, 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 chop. But it is a controlled chaos, but it's what works for us best. We do a lot of activities. The military is awesome. We have a lot of benefits, and we have a lot of, they call it Blue Star card, where, military families who are deployed get free perks, like we get tickets to the Discovery Center on a discounted price. We get free zoo tickets. So we have a lot of community support where people come together, and we have Easter egg hunts and things like that. So every month or every week there's something else that you can do. And we keep busy, we take advantage of this. We get free movie screenings. We have obstacle races for the kids. We have zombie runs on Halloween. We have pumpkin patches. So there is things that you can do if you actively seek to go out. Keep busy, keep very busy. Give the kids something to look forward to. But also, we have a lot of downtime. There are a lot of times where we shut down the appliance, we close the door, we turn on a movie, and we just cuddle up. We have those days too, you know, where we have completely weekend, where we don't absolutely do anything, but we have a lot of on the go, keep busy. Any other questions?
Susie?
Okay. Katie?
So mine's more related to like education. Have you seen, are there a lot more people that like homeschool their children in the military, or do you think that like most people still go to like traditional public schools?
That's a very interesting question. Yes, I've seen an influx of homeschool children. There's a lot of school districts that, America is very challenging as teachers, as you guys know. Your licensing across the state is not the same. If you move from one state to the other one, you will have your challenging. It is the same for school children, you know. DoD schools have a very high level of Department of Defense, if it doesn't ring a bell for you guys. Requirements and such vary, and my kid might be top in one school district, goes to the next one, falls to the bottom. My kid might have special needs that is accommodated here, and we have special ed teachers, and the other school doesn't have that because the funding is simply not there. So it depends on the duty station, it depends on the state, it depends on the teacher, it depends on the administration of the school, superintendent of the school. There's so many variables, in fact, they play a role to that. In recent years, yes, I do have seen an influx of homeschool children, especially of Christian faith-based families, because I do not believe in the institution of the academics that has been taught in the United States lately. And it's based on religion being excluded in school. Prayers are being not allowed, crosses not being allowed to hang, and such things like that. So a lot of families decide, based on their faith, that they can educate their children the way they want them to, you know, be raised, and they choose to do homeschooling. So that's what I've seen in the past a lot. You see those Christian faith family who are very religious, who have 5 and more kids. They just decide to homeschool because the public schools just don't meet the needs of their, what they have planned for their children. Yes. Yes.
So as teachers, we're obviously there for the students, but the parents as well. So like, is there any advice you could give us as future educators for how to handle the spouse of someone who's deployed as the parent?
I can tell you something right now. I'm a scary parent. Absolutely scary. So when I enter the room, I am courteous and nice. I love you because we're all partners in this. The way you want to have a relationship is not only professional but also personal. Keep that in mind. It's an interpersonal relationship. You guys, your generation, have it really hard. You have such a huge amount of access of information, such a high speed that you have to process. You have to be on your toes, and parents are educated. They know their rules and know their rights. Oh, no, this is not what you're supposed to be doing, and this is what I don't like, and this is what the rule book says, and this, I'm gonna go and call a superintendent because I have his phone number, I can pull it off Google. So your generation have it much, much worse than any other teacher before us. You might not have more challenges, you have different challenges. So I would suggest for you guys, when you go into a relationship with a parent, and you have to establish relationship, your secret in your generation is building relationships. The way you want to have a personal relationship with that person, you should approach it in a professional way. Yes, there's professional boundaries, of course. You're not going to high-five a friend or slap on the butt or something like that. We're not doing that. But when there's a problem, I tend to be a strict parent. When I see there's an issue, if you don't see my face, everything is perfectly fine. But when I step up, when I've showed me a classroom, be scared. I will be that mom, especially military parents. I have several issues, and my daughter came to me and she said to me, and I felt very bad, she says, my teacher is terrified of you. She's a K-State alumni. She graduated 2 years ago. She took on 5th grade, which I didn't agree with it. You know, you should start with a smaller grade. 5th grade are pre-teens. They're gonna rock it wild. If you're not like that and you can't control them, you can't set the boundaries, you can't maintain the eye contact, you can't get them to sit still by just looking at them, you will have a hard time. That class was very challenging. I did not like that. My daughter was falling behind. She was a straight A student. She's an honor roll student, and she wasn't able to focus in class. That's a totally new story. I'm getting sidetracked. Anyway, so I had to talk to her, and once I was in her classroom, she asked the principal to sit in because she was scared of me. It broke my heart. I'm a very nice person, but I will be very strict. I will be on point. So I went and had a conversation with her, and I said, you know, please feel free to talk to me if you have any suggestions how we do better. I want to be your partner. We're a partner in my child's education. Let me be the partner. Can I donate a flag to you? Because she had only like a little plastic flag. I'm like, I have millions of flags at home. Please let me donate a flag to you if that is a problem. Do you need help? Please, can I come in and be a lunch monitor during lunch? I take my lunch break. I offered suggestions. So you guys, I would suggest to learn the difference between constructive feedback and criticism. If I come to you and say you're doing a bad job, I'm criticizing you. But if I say, hey, I don't like what you're doing, could we maybe do this? Can I help you? If I offer you a suggestion, I'm trying to have a communication channel. You might not like it, you don't have to like it, but you have to respect it because, again, we're partners in this. So, and military spouses, I am one of those, we are very like this, we're on the go. So if I take my valuable time of the day to focus on you because I have to, you might want to be prepared for that. So not everybody is like this, and a lot of people are very nice, but there are people like me where they say, hey, I do work, I'm a full-time college student, I have 3 kids, my husband is deployed. I have to go grocery shopping, I have to pay my bills, something happened with my house, the water heater broke, I have to talk to these people, I have to write 100 emails, I have a paper due, and now I have to sit here and talk to you. So, you know, walking a mile in my shoe, understanding where I'm coming from, that I have to make the effort to come and talk to you, might be something, a mindset, and if you just be professional and just say, hey, I understand where you're coming from, I'm sorry you have to come here, but let's sit down and talk, see what we can do. That's the best approach, because when you get too much into, I don't like the way you are, then it's basically a fight, which you don't need to have at that point. So the way you want to have a personal relationship, I would recommend for you just interpersonal relationship.
Susan.
Yes.
Will you talk specifically about your 3 children, Anthony, LJ, and Bella, and like their experiences in school, and maybe challenges or benefit things that they've had to deal with?
Yes, I mean, just quick, my son has ADHD. We know at a very young age that he had ADHD. He has a 504. One of the teachers told me she can't accommodate a 504. I looked at her, I'm like, poor lady, we're gonna have a problem. That was one of the challenges. My daughter, we have a very culturally diverse background. My daughter, I'm Asian, I was raised in Germany. My husband is born in Buenos Aires, he's Argentinian, but he was raised in America. Half of his parents are Jewish, Catholic, I don't know how that happened, but it did. My parents are Buddhist and atheist, so my dad doesn't believe in religion. So in our generation after that, we have Chinese and that, so we're very cultural diverse. And she was accused of being a racist. She looks Caucasian. She comes after my dad, my husband, her dad. She looks very Caucasian. I look like a nanny next to her. So she was accused of being a racist because there was an African-American child involved. And my daughter was crying when she came home. She couldn't catch a thought. She couldn't talk. Mama Bear came out. That school got an earful. I went up to the superintendent to the point where they all had to apologize to me because they're trying to portray my daughter being something they're not. So once that came out, and then there was a lot of conversations. That was one of the challenging because she looked like the typically Caucasian, successful, smart girl, and nobody knew her background until we were there. Okay. Then I have Bella. Bella is the youngest. She has food allergies, so I have a lot of challenging with all of my children in different ways. Bella can't have, and that's a funny story, I will love to tell you this. So she has allergies towards fish, hazelnut, and eggs. And now we all know, as educators, we have this beautiful signs, please do not bring nuts into, this is a nut-free classroom. I'm not that parent. I went to the administrator and says, do not put the sign up. My child is not nut allergic, she's not airborne. Her allergy is not airborne. She will not die if somebody eats peanut butter jelly sandwich next to her. She will not, please don't. And she's allergic to hazelnut, which is specifically grown in Europe. Unless you're eating Nutella and you making her eat a spoonful, she's not gonna die, it's fine. So I really had to talk to the administrator this way and say, hey, please don't do it. Because when we came up young as a military family, we relied on WIC, Woman Infant Program. And one of the part of the program is you get free peanut butter. A lot of families do not have the money and the funds. A lot of people rely on those programs, on SNAP and such. Who am I to tell another parent, you can't feed your child peanut butter jelly sandwich? Maybe that's the only thing they have. You know, there are kids that don't have the resources that we all have. So to me, coming from that point and having to rely on programs and stuff like that, I can feel for those parents. I don't want them to try to figure out something else to feed their children and not to eat. My child is not going to die next to it when she sits there. You know, she has Benadryl, she has rescue medication, and the first line of defense for her for allergies is for her to know at a very young age, I can't eat this, oh my throat is itching, I need an EpiPen or I need a Benadryl right now. The system is in place. She needs to be able to handle her allergies on her own without me being there, because guess what? I'm not going to be there for the rest of her life 24/7 attached to my hip. I'm not going to. She can go to a bus, she can go to a movie theater, she can touch a railing or something on the playground that somebody else touches before. I can't save her. I can't be here and protect her. She needs to do it on her own. I had this conversation seriously with the administrator, and I had to beg them not to put the sign out. And it went up to the superintendent, I had to sign a waiver, and it was all good. So there's different challenges with my children at a different age, different school system again, where, you know, things didn't make sense to me. So I'm the one, if a rule makes sense, I understand there's airborne, you know, people who are airborne allergic and things like that. I understand teachers might not know about 504 and IEPs. Be understanding, like again, it's a collaboration between parent and teacher. If you say, hey, we have a rule here at our school, it doesn't make any sense for this family or this kid, question it. Question it. Don't go for the, you know what you know. Oh, this is what the rule says. I don't want to deal with it. No, go for it. Ask the questions. Why do we have this rule? Yes, this rule applies for them, but not all rules apply to everybody. So if you have a family, have a kid with special needs or a special education need or a food nutrition need, you know, try to work it out around it. Rules are there to be broken, and new rules has been put in place because somebody else questions status quo. So if it doesn't make sense for your child, for your family, for your school at that point in time, ask the questions. I'm not saying go on and protest it. I'm saying ask the question, ask the reasoning behind it so you understand, so you be better an advocate for those children that you're teaching. Go ahead.
I have kind of a multi-part question. So if your husband has ever been gone for like a year-long deployment and had R&R, when he came back, was it harder for your children?
Absolutely.
For that 2 weeks that he was home?
Yes. We went on emergency leave this past December. He's currently stationed in Poland. We saw him for 12 hours, and we traveled 7 days to go see him. It was challenging to say goodbye. We said, you know, we spent a lot of money and a lot of traveling, and it was a lot of effort. We were exhausted. We said to ourselves it was nice to see each other, but it was a second goodbye.
Right.
So it was tough, but my children are very resilient. And the older the children get, you will see the resiliency will build up. They get stronger, they get more confident, you know, they get used to it, you know, and they adapt. Military children are very adaptable, you know, they're very fragile too at a very young stage, but those who adapt to their lifestyle, you know, adjust. Now we're counting down the days, you know, he's about to come home and they're really excited. So it was a little bit dipped down, but then we say, hey, you know what, be happy. A lot of people don't get to see that. So again, the glass is half full versus the glass is half empty. It is what parents teach their kids what a life approach are. You know, you can sit in a pit and be in my same situation, be sad about something, or you can say, hey, you know what, no, I got this. You know, and you move on. There was a question, yes?
Mine's also like a two-part question. So how many times have your children had to like move school systems, and that, what is it like when like a military family comes to a new school and like, I know that you said you're a very active parent in the classroom, but like how do you approach the teachers and like what do you want their response to be?
We move schools a lot, but we're really fortunate. My husband is infantry, so we try to move either winter break or in the summer break. We don't have a lot of problems academic-wise because my kids are pretty much where they need to be. Up until they go to middle school, I'm not too concerned about them having straight A's. They're kids that need to be kids. They'll learn. They will read. My daughter was horrible at reading the first 3 grades. Now she reads high school level books. Kids grow on their own level. You can't force them. Most important part is let them thrive the way they need. A C is fine. It's not going to determine for the rest of their lives. So I have a different approach to that. So school, even I changed halfway through school and I lost friends, but I tell them for every friend I lose, them I gain 5 new ones, And every time we leave a DD station, they cry over the friends that I made this time and forgot about the friends I had before. And some of them remain very close where they're still in contact and stuff like that. So we change school quite a lot, usually in the winter break or in the summer break. What was the second part of the question?
So like when you go to a new school, I know you said you're an active parent, so how do you approach their new teacher or school versus like how do you wish that teachers would like be receptive to your kids?
I have to say we had great teachers. I met one teacher. I could have changed her out, but the majority of the teachers were really good, really good. They really have the heart in the right spot. So my first approach when I met a new teacher, I introduce myself. I tell her, here's my phone number, here's my email address. If there's anything I can do for you, let me know. It's up to the teacher, Some people take it, and I get texts and emails. I'm very sufficient on social media. I have everything running through my phone. I respond within 30 minutes if a teacher gets in touch with me. My children are important to me, they're my priority. And if they become a priority to you guys, and you reach out and you have that, hey, I have a teacher, for an example, she's not even one of my son's teachers, and she told me like, hey, she caught Anthony in a lie because he said something and it was not truthful. He has ADHD and he mixed up his priorities and he told her white lie. She was very offended by that, and in her world, lies are very bad. So she texted me. I took it very serious and I said, thank you very much for reaching out to me. You guys are busy. I know you're busy. Thank you for your text. Thank you for your email. Thank you for reaching out to me. That's the first thing I say. I appreciate you taking the time out of the day and communicating with me. And then I address the issue, and it says, I will address it with my son, and I re-empathize with her, the teacher, that what she does is great. I want to hear the good, the bad, and the ugly. I want to hear it. Don't sugarcoat it. You don't have to give my child a good grade because you're scared of me or anything. It's not going to do him any good, because at the end of the day, when he moves forward, he's not going to be able to perform. I want you to be honest with me. I want you to tell me so I can re-empathize what he needs to do at school, at home, because again, we're partners in this. So my approach with teachers in every school we went to, I'm here if you need me. Here is my phone, here's my email. You can reach me even on social media if you need to. Call me if you need to speak to me personally. So I'm very approachable. A lot of parents are not like that, though. I have to give you that. A lot of people don't want to do anything with it because they're busy. You will have those parents too. But if you have one of those parents who reach out to you and you want that communication, grab it, do that. The parent will also be able to give you, I do a lot of parent-teacher gifts. Teachers that do nice things for my children. I appreciate them. I'm the first one to donate stuff. They ask for donations for state testing. I bought $50 versus a snack because I know not a lot of people do that. I appreciate the teachers. If there's something coming my way, it might not directly come back to you, but it come back to your kids, to your colleagues, to your school district, Reel in that parent that wants to be a part of it. You can't do it for everybody, but again, reach out. Interpersonal relationships is all I can tell you guys. Any other questions?
Susie, would you go to that one, then I'll ask you.
Yes.
How do you talk to your kids about mental health issues if they're affecting your spouse when in household?
Thank you for the question. Mental health is a huge problem. Not only in the military, it's a huge problem in the civilian world. How do I talk with my children? I'm being very honest with you guys. My oldest son is in therapy for his ADHD, so we're seeing a counselor on a regular basis before he can have his medication. So We are in therapy. I'm not shy to say that. There's nothing wrong with mental health. If you seek it, the same thing. If you have the flu, you go see a doctor. That we're living in a generation where, you know, the influx of information, the access and all of it, the information highway is so large and so much, and we're so interconnected all the time. It's just amazing that we all survive to absorb all of that. So, and my middle daughter, 3 years ago, my mother-in-law was diagnosed with cervical cancer. We lost her along the way. 6 weeks later, my mom got diagnosed with breast cancer. So the 2 years following up until we lost my mother-in-law, my mom survived. She recovered. She had a relapse with cancer. There was a lot of things going on. We lost our dog unexpectedly. My middle daughter collapsed. She absolutely collapsed. She's my running horse. She is top 5 in her age group in swimming in the swim team competitively. She is a straight A student. She made a principal honor roll. You know, she is active in the PTO, whatever, in her school. You know, she's a phenomenal child. She's gorgeous. She's pretty. She's well liked. She's really, really a great kid. She totally mentally broke down. She was having tantrums. She had an outburst. I did not know. And at one point, I received a phone call from a classmate, my daughter's classmate's mom, telling me that LG confided in her daughter that she was attempted suicide. Wow, shock right there. I mean, we saw the signs and stuff. I already had an appointment lined up to go to behavioral health. Hearing that from another parent, again, I appreciate it. Again, interpersonal relationship communication. I appreciated her feeling confident enough to come and reach out to me and saying, hey, there's an issue. I need to let you know. This is something you need to know. She apparently tried to, what did she do? She was trying to take ibuprofen. You know, she took 3 of them. She thought apparently that would do it for her. Thank God. So it's funny now. I can laugh, and I'm being very open because mental health is a huge issue. Mental health is even an issue among you guys at your generation, at your age. Recently, we have a lot of. I saw a news article about mental health and suicide thoughts and stuff like this. And I will write the number of the suicide prevention hotline for you guys as well. If you don't know how to, please take advantage of it. It's not just a military thing. This is a generation thing. This is a current thing. It pertains to everybody. Seek help. Please talk to somebody. You're not alone. We all go through this. Along the therapy for my son and along the therapy for my daughter, she's currently still in therapy. She went weekly because suicide prevention. She's been under review. We've been red flagged to make sure she is okay. She's mentally stable. She's 10. She's 10. So going back to, it affects everybody at every stage. Just because you're sitting next to somebody and they're smiling at you doesn't mean they're okay. Check up on each other. Make sure, hey, you really off. You're really off. What's wrong? Sit down. Make him go to a coffee with you guys. Make them shut out their heart. Reach out to your friend. Check up on them. Check up on your families at home. Check up on your mom, dad, brother, whoever you have. Check up on them. We all need it. Okay. Mental health. She is doing really good right now. She's going from weekly sessions to monthly sessions. She recovered. She's laughing again. It was a lot for her to take in. In Fort Riley, we got here in 2016. My husband has been gone 10 months. We touched ground in April, and he was gone into field training until September. He left in October for a 9-month rotation, came back end of May, June, had 1.5 months leave, went back into Devil's Focus for another 3 months, went to NTC for another 6 weeks, and was shipped off again. So he has been gone now 20 months out of the 3 years he's been here in Fort Riley. So my kids haven't had a dad. So while all this mental health issues, my daughter went down, he wasn't here. So, and along the therapy sessions with my older son and my middle daughter, I got help from the psychiatrist as well. They picked up on that hey, mom, how are you? I'm not well. And they picked up on that. So it is not a shame to talk about it. I'm not crazy. I just have a lot on my plate. And sometimes it's okay if somebody comes and helps you clear a plate for you, talks to you, or just asks you, hey, how are you? It's absolutely okay. It's not a judgment based on you as a person. It's more like a representation of what's going on in your life. And it might not even be military, guys. It doesn't have to be military. It doesn't have to be deployment. It can be stress, you know, if you have an exam coming up, or you have a paper due, or you have a team to make, or you have something else going on in your life. Maybe you have personal problems. It could be whatever makes your life shake up. And it's absolutely legit. There's nothing wrong with it. Just understand that. Please, just want to empathize that. Mental health is nothing to be ashamed of. Yes?
I don't really know a lot about the military, so I don't know about like how, like when you get deployed, like who goes, who doesn't go, whatever. But with people that are deployed, when are they able to like come back for like issues with their family or their kids, or is that just like not a thing?
You talk about emergency leave, I believe. Okay, there's a difference. We have deployments. Deployments are temporary duty station assignments of 12 months and more. The military distinguishes between deployments and rotations. Everything below 12 months is a rotation, or 9 months is a rotation. Means you don't get leave. You don't get to go home. You get to do anything. You just do your job for 9 months. Just temporarily assigned to another duty station. 12 months deployments are usually combat-related zones like Afghanistan, Iraq, Africa, wherever we are going. They usually have like a 2-week break in between. Those are regular, just to give you an idea of where we stand. Emergency leave is a discretion of the command. The command will decide if your problem is severe enough for you to go home and handle the case, if your spouse is not able to handle it. Emergency leave is, my mom was hospitalized because she relapsed in cancer, but she was in Europe already. So I got a Red Cross message, I traveled back home. My husband was in Poland. He had a medical appointment, so it fit in the picture, you know. So even while the emergency didn't pertain him, and my mom doesn't count as his immediate family, he was allowed to go for 2 days and take 2 days off to come and see my mom in the hospital. We had another emergency where a wife was getting in a car accident. She was unresponsive. Immediate family member was on the way. The husband went home to take care of the children because those are life-changing events. Life-changing events where life and death is on the line. A death of a family member, if your dad passed away, your mom passed away. Immediate family member or a grandma who raised you, you know, you'd be your first parent. You get to go home, but you don't get to go home for a flu, a surgery. A birth of a child is not guaranteed. That's not an emergency. You can handle a birth. There's enough systems in the military. I'm ready. And again, military-wise are very resilient. We are required to have, how you call it, the family plan, family care plan. We are required to have that. So severe emergencies, yes, where life and death is on the line, you get to go home. Other than that, it's a discretion of the Army, and depending on mission essential and what the mission is that they're on. If they're in a combat zone, they will not send you back. It costs a lot of money. But most of the command team will try to do their best. Not everybody does that. And it's not always successful. You will hear the negative stories to that. And there are really bad stories where people miss funerals of their moms and dads, or people pass away. Those things happen. They're absolute reality. Yes. Yes.
This might be kind of a personal question, so feel free to answer as much or as little as you'd like. But what does communication with your spouse look like when he's away, and like how do you communicate like the challenges that you're facing, like with your children's mental health and stuff, as well as like the positive things that are going on in your life? Like what does that balance look like?
Oh, wow. Okay, communication. Communication in 2001 looks different than communication in 2019. I communicated with my husband the first deployment. He was first boots on the ground after 9/11 attack. He was the first one in Fallujah. He was fighting. CNN, I hated with pest. I would not watch CNN. Every day there was somebody dying. Every day there was watching combat zones and stuff. The only way I could communicate with my spouse was through letter. So when I wrote him something about an issue, he did it, I got a response 3 months later. Then in 2004, second deployment, Yahoo Messenger. You see the dial-up one? Yeah, you don't remember, no, your generation won't remember. Okay, there was something called dial-up internet, so you have to wait until it was connecting. So your life was depending on this little bar going to the right, and you were sitting there, you almost like cried, you were already a nerve wreck, and you get like 4 sentences back and forth, and really chopped up, kind of like, you know, talking walkie-talkie. Then you go to emails, and then, you know, it came to FaceTime and Skype and stuff like this. So communication got better throughout the years. Communication now, when we have to communicate issues, me and my husband are very different to the average military family. So don't think we are the status quo. We are absolutely not. When you hear me and my husband talk, you're like, holy cow. We're very honest. We don't sugarcoat. We don't beat around the bush. We don't have time for the bows, the ties, the wrapped paper. Here's the gift. Basically, that's how it is. I text my husband. I'm like, hey, this is what's going on. And if he has time, he calls back. We talk about it. He's there for me. He understands that I have to let my emotions out. So he understands. He's relating to me at that point in time. We had issues in the past where I would tell him about the issue and he felt helpless. That caused tensions because he couldn't do anything. He was like, why are you telling me that? And I heard before that spouse would tell me, don't tell your husband what's going on at home. He can't do anything about it. You're going to worry him. Bull crap. He needs to know what's going on. He is my partner. And we understood, we learned throughout the years that we be very honest with each other. He would tell me, hey, I lost a buddy in combat. I'm really down right now. It's not doing well. Or, hey, Elja tried to commit suicide. We understand that we can't do anything for the situation. We can't improve the situation, but we can be there for our spouse. At that moment and point in time, it's about just listening, just being there, being the person who's receiving all the emotions and absorbing it, and being the strong person. Our communication is very open, it's very direct. We have established a very good relationship. We are friends, first most. We are our best friends. We are our trustee. So when I have something that bothers me, he's the first person to talk to. And it doesn't matter where he is right now. So he will take the time of the day. He will mentally tune out and mentally be invested in what I have to say. And that's what makes a real successful relationship, being mentally invested in the other person, given time of the day. Honesty. Honesty is what we do. Any other questions?
So do we quickly explain the difference between a DoD school and then the public school setting and what you've chosen for your children?
Okay, Department of the Defense School, called DoD, is schools on military installation where military dependents do not have the chance to attend American school system. Like, for example, we're stationed in Belgium. There is the SHAPE. It is the Supreme Allied Headquarters of Europe, the NATO. There are 40 different nations on that installation. So the Americans have stepped up and opened a Department of Defense school. DoD schools are phenomenal. They are actually, I think, one of the top leading school systems in the United States. The teachers are phenomenal. The school system and curriculum is really phenomenal. They still teach cursive, by the way. I love cursive. Schools in the States, here statesides, again, it's a hit or miss. It could be USD 380 and USD 475. They're so different, and they're next to each other. Example is by the school closings. One school decides to close and one doesn't, and you are just literally 2 yards apart from each other. You have the same weather. So I'm a big fan of Department of Defense school system. I have to see individually what the civilian school system are. It all comes down to your administration. It all comes down to your superintendent. It all comes down on the dynamic between your teacher, colleagues, what you want to make out of it, how motivated you are. I know we have USD 475 is very engaged. They have great teachers. They participate in Girls on the Run. They have a lot of Girls on the Run sponsors and things like that. USD 380 does that. Neighboring schools don't do that too much. It depends on what you do, what you bring to the table and how you make that great. And again, when you ask those questions and you put your input in there and you are seeking out for a positive change, you make the school district better, you make that school better. I can't tell you about the administrative part, what you're teaching those kids, but it is the people that makes a difference. And DoD teachers are very phenomenal individual. They are specifically trained on military needs. They're specifically trained on cultural diversity. They are specifically trained on communications and the interpersonal relationship. They know what change means to people. Change is challenge for everybody. They're change managers. They manage a lot of other aspects besides just the academics. So I think that's the huge part. They get a lot of military training too. Deployment-related stuff and things like that. We have MFLEX. Those are psychological consultants that come volunteer at time in military installations that I work closely with them. We get extra funding for special aid special aid sections where kids will pull out of the class and empathizing, learning the English language, or if you have special needs and stuff. So DoD schools are very well funded because they're federally funded. Civilian schools in the States are depending on local funding, and that's what the problem is, and depending on what school district you live in, how good the fundings are and how motivated the teachers are to stay in that school district. No other questions? Well, I appreciate the time here, and I think you guys are doing phenomenal. Just keep in mind when you're a teacher, we appreciate you. When a parent tells you something else, I appreciate you. Our parents will appreciate you. You might not hear it the very first time, and you will have the challenges with parents and stuff like this, and with military children. Just know we really do appreciate you, what you do. Thank you.